Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Mike Barletta here, coming back at you with another update, another video on Tropical Storm Isaias. So before we get into it, if you guys could hit that like and subscribe button, it'll really help me out. Drop a comment down below telling me what you think is going to happen with this storm. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So this storm currently 70 miles an hour, moving north-northwest at 9 miles an hour. Initially, we thought that this was going to possibly make landfall across the Florida coast. Hasn't happened. Kind of stayed off land, kind of bounced around as the core redeveloped, but we'll get back into that later. Tropical storm warnings from central Florida to central North Carolina, and tropical storm watches from the northern half of North Carolina all the way up to Connecticut. I expect those may be expanded into these regions in the coming days, coming hours. Big story here, hurricane watches from eastern South Carolina to western North Carolina, where we're expecting that this storm, at least me personally, could really ramp up right before landfall into a hurricane. So that's why those hurricane watches are there. As you could see, official track from National Hurricane Center takes us right, making landfall at the South and North Carolina border, going straight up towards Delaware, right through Long Island and through Maine before becoming a tropical or subtropical depression over eastern Atlantic Canada. So getting right into the satellite presentation right now. Yesterday, it was a big swirl, naked swirl, no convection. The storm really looked like it was about to die, but it has made a real bounce back. Now we're seeing this CDO, a lot of cold cloud tops from negative 70, sometimes touching negative 80 degrees Celsius. Very cool cloud tops, a sign of a healthy, strengthening storm. We have some nice outflow. Now you're able to see where shear is impacting the storm. On this western side, you see this gradient. There's no real outflow on the west side of the storm, but here on the northeast side and the east side, you see a lot of this beautiful outflow coming from this storm. But that's why this storm hasn't really been able to really ramp up yet, because it's still dealing with some west and southwesterly shear that's impacting it right now. However, that is going to change, but as it looks right now, we have a pretty healthy storm on satellite imagery. So taking a look at what this storm is going to encounter next, you could see this is a map of dry air. This dry air is denoted by these yellows, this kind of pixelated stuff. These yellows and oranges, and the shear is denoted by these green, yellow, and red lines. Green means favorable, red means unfavorable, yellow's in the middle. So you could see before there was a lot of this shear. However, that has mostly died down. The center of the storm is around there, and although there is some southwesterly shear, there's not too much, nothing really to get in the way of this storm. Currently dealing with between 15 and 20 knots of shear, so not the best. However, definitely conducive for some strengthening, especially if we see the shear values start to back off down to the southwest as this storm moves north into some more favorable conditions. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on that, see how shear plays into this. But that's the big reason why this storm really got torn up yesterday over the Bahamas, and 2 days ago. It was in around here, and there were a lot of these 20-25 knot shear values from the southwest. So just an overall look at what this storm is going into, and you could see as it moves north, we're getting more of these green colors, which means favorable for some tropical cyclone development or intensification. In this case, it's going to be some intensification. So taking a look at the microwave satellite imagery, this just basically gives you a look into the core of the system, and you could see there was a nice core in the system 2 days ago, and it kind of died out. You see, as it approaches Florida, all these bright colors die out. However, over the recent hours, you see a lot of these reds starting to build back up in the core of the system. Now, for a real healthy system, you'd see them wrap around all the way around the center. Thankfully, we have yet to see that. It's only on the northeast side because of that shear, as I was talking about before, that was impacting it from the southwest, so only the northeast side is getting a real core together. But once that wraps around, this is going to have a real shot to really intensify over the next few days. So we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on this microwave imagery, seeing exactly what the core is doing, seeing if it's developing a core. Right now, not a great look because it's definitely developing a core, especially with these deep reds that you see here, indicating a very strong core. So getting into some of the impacts before we get into the wind, trust me, we will get into that. That's the big story. Rain is going to be another big factor in this storm. You could see as the storm's moving slowly, some 6 to 10, even 10 to 15 inch values, as denoted by the National Weather Service and NOAA. As the storm starts to accelerate, we'll see a big swath of 4 to 6 inches of rain, even some maxima close east of Washington, D.C. of possibly 6 to 10 inches. And that's going to be the big story with this. The western side of the storm is going to feature a lot of rain. The eastern side of the storm is going to feature a little bit more wind. So you could see the overall path that we are expecting goes right along this type of gradient here, right along somewhere over there. So the further to the west, we're seeing a little bit more rain. Further to the east, these areas to the east going to have to watch out for some more winds, some stronger winds. Not a whole ton of rain, 4 to 6 inches, nothing that we haven't dealt with, especially a lot of these tropical cyclones, if they're moving fast, tend to underperform in the rain category, but we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. A lot of the models dump a lot of rain. Some of them get close to 8 inches. The United Kingdom model gets close to 8 inches of rain in some spots, so definitely a big part of the forecast. Not a lot of people think about rain and tropical cyclones. They think about the wind, but this is definitely one that the rain's going to have to keep an eye on. And before we get into wind, just want to take a look at the latest recon. This is currently ongoing right now. Took a pass from the west and got through the eye. Looks like they didn't totally make it perfectly in the eye, but got pretty close. Pressure down to 991. Last advisory pressure was down to 994, excuse me. So 991, we're seeing the pressure start to drop, and these dark red wind barbs at flight level are indicating that this is possibly near hurricane strength. I think the strongest winds are going to be within this quadrant, which they haven't really searched for yet, and they definitely will later in the day, but it looks like the plane's about to make another pass through the eye, see if the pressure's dropped any lower. And you could definitely see here, eastern side of the storm, much stronger than the western side of the storm. Western side, we're only seeing 34 to 40 knot winds, where eastern side we're seeing 60 to 64 knot winds, pretty widespread out there. So just another little point I want to make before we move on. So looking at the European model, this is the European strongest wind gust. You could see pretty much track the exact path of the storm, where it's bringing it right over there, and it's really forecasting these strong hurricane force wind gusts. The brown denotes hurricane force wind gusts all the way up through Connecticut and Long Island for a very big swath. I don't know if they're going to be this strong. They definitely will be able to be close, especially if this storm begins to ramp up right before it makes landfall, which personally I think it will. I'm calling for a moderate Category 1 storm. I think this has the potential to push close to Category 2, and the European is getting close to that idea. 100 to 110 mile an hour gusts at the border of North and South Carolina before weakening a little bit and getting a little bit of a pop right by the Jersey Shore, showing 80 to 90 mile an hour gusts right along the Jersey Shore, right through Long Island. So just something to really keep an eye out on, especially if you live on the coast. Be prepared to lose power throughout all these areas. I'd say from this line east, definitely a good chance of power loss, especially closer to the coast. I'm personally going to be going to the beach, trying to get some good readings, good wind gust readings. Definitely something that is going to be a danger, something that we have to watch very closely with these wind gusts. Very powerful system. As it gets further north, it won't last very long, but regardless, 80 miles an hour is 80 miles an hour. That could take down some pretty big trees. Hurricane Sandy by me was about 80 to 85 miles an hour, the strongest wind gust, and it took down really, really big trees. So this is definitely a threat. And this is not the only model showing it either. Here we have the United Kingdom model, valid for Tuesday afternoon, and you could see 982 millibar storm going right through New York City and Long Island, with very strong winds. These are sustained winds of 50 to near 60 knots, which was near hurricane force, with wind gusts. This model was showing wind gusts of 90 to 110 miles an hour along the strongest part of the storm. So definitely a real threat, especially I would say along these regions and coastal regions. Coastal regions are always a bigger threat. just something that everyone's going to have to really beware of and really try and stay safe from. So, not saying this specific model is correct. I don't expect it to be this strong. I mean, it's definitely possible, especially if we get closer to that category 2 before landfall, and the models really don't weaken this that much as it goes north because due to an interaction with an the upper level jet stream. But you know that I'm always good for updates. If you guys haven't followed me at Mike B. Weather on Facebook or Twitter, make sure to do that. I post all the latest model runs, all of the latest updates on those pages. You'll never miss anything. I could only make YouTube videos every so often, but there I will update constantly. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I put a lot into these videos. Have an awesome day, and if you're in the path of the storm, make sure to stay safe. Listen to your local officials. Have a good one.